2019 for some is the worst year ever for WWE, and I am not kidding. I do kind of get it, as it houses some of the worst angles of modern times, and as such some bizarre information came out the other side. So do you want some weird facts? Because I am Simon Miller, and I am gonna hook you up. Number 10, Shinsuke Nakamura's sad record. In 2018, Shinsuke Nakamura won the Raw Rumble. It was exciting, especially as this was the first former NXT champion to get such a victory, and we all thought this was the start of something grand. Not really. Because a year later at the 2019 Rumble, Nakamura became the first winner to get relegated to the pre-show. I mean, come on. Now, he did beat Rusev to become the United States champion, so it's not all bad, and he was in the Rumble. Still, though, you could feel Shinsuke wasn't seen in the same light. Surprise, surprise, Vince McMahon didn't really get it. That was proven when on the next SmackDown he lost the US title to R-Truth, and as the Blue brand was filmed on a Tuesday back in 2019, it meant Nakamura had the belt for 48 hours. These are not good stats, especially for somebody like him. At least he made a lot of money. Number 9, Nia Jax Breaks History. Because she was indeed the first WWE superstar to work both Raw Rumbles in one night. Now sure, this wouldn't have been possible before 2018, as that was the first time we had a Women's Rumble, but somebody needed to crack this, and we did indeed give the nod to one Nia Jax. She entered at number 29 in her own version and lasted 11 minutes and 59 seconds before Bayley and Natalya threw her out. It was always going to take two. Jax then returned later on when she stole R-Truth's place in the men's iteration, and even though she was only in for 3 minutes, Nia did throw out Mustafa Ali. It caused quite the fuss, as you would expect, and nobody can ever take this away from Nia. You can only have one first. Number 8, Pat McAfee almost quit at WrestleMania 35. This is even more wild given how much the Pat WWE relationship has flourished since. But in 2019, McAfee turned up at Mania and got a right telling off from Michael Cole because he was wearing shorts. Just let that sentence fly through your brain. Now, I do get there's likely some sort of dress code, but WWE had hired Pat because of who he was. We see that on commentary every week, so trying to stop him being him, and what the hell is the point? There is more in the sense the company had told McAfee not to do this, and he sort of listened. He took a pair of trousers and cut the ends off, so maybe they're all to blame. Pat was ready to walk out when it was actually Vince McMahon who stepped in and said it was all fine, and that this was, and I quote, hip. So what a strange situation all around. I don't think we should be getting mad about shorts. Number 7, the Mizs Dad was Vince's favorite. On the same show too, Vince McMahon fell in love with the Mizs Dad. Father George had threatened Shane McMahon during his match with The Miz and even gone into the ring, so after the event Vince wanted to know why. Because that's right, that part wasn't meant to happen. Mr. Miz had only done this as Shane had told him to follow his lead, so he did follow suit and entered the squared circle. Luckily for him, older Vince absolutely loved it. I would imagine also there was some actual wrestlers who performed that didn't get the same kind of love that came to George. So if you want to break it down like Metallica, he was actually the hero of the day. Number 6, Mansa Got Heat. So this is pure hoop jumping, the things WWE guys used to have to do. In 2018, Mansa had impressed after the Greatest Raw Rumble though, and done great on NXT. This is when apparently he was called to the main roster, where he was told the old ritual of shaking everybody's hand wasn't a thing anymore. Turned out that wasn't necessarily true. For our Super Showdown 2019, Mustafa Ali pulled Mansa to one side and told him he was rubbing people the wrong way because he was not shaking hands, and there you go. Mansa told this story to Instinct Culture and admitted it left him confused. He was getting advice all over the place, so what is one to do? Totally get it. It's why I would hope the structure is most definitely better now. Doesn't matter what the rules are, but tell people for goodness sake. Don't have them guessing. It's not going to help anyone. Number 5, the longest one-night WrestleMania ever. Boy, do I know this one. I was at Mania 35. Now I get I sound like an asshole, so I do apologize, but my word, it was long. I remember getting to hour 6 as Reigns smacked me in the face and thinking, I'm not sure I want to be here. And how bad is that? It just wasn't a well-thought-out event. 5 hours and 19 minutes was the official running time for the main card, but if you bring in the pre-show, we are talking 7 hours plus. That is crazy. It also ruined the main event, which was making history, because while Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, and Charlotte Flair deserved that spot, the whole stadium was exhausted. You could actually feel it. It had also peaked with Kofi Kingston's win over Bryan Danielson, and is a huge reason WWE made the show 2 nights. I still think they could have just been more reserved, but ever since it has been a huge success. I bet somehow we still get to a 6-hour running time over the entire weekend. Let's hope I am wrong. Nobody needs a 12-hour total WrestleMania. Well, there'll be that one guy, but more power to you. Number 4, the main event finish. Ronda Rousey has talked about this after the fact, which has given us some proper insight. As we know, after Lynch had hit the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, the referee had counted to 3, even though Ronda's shoulders were not down. Ruh-roh. It caused the right stink as conspiracy theories flew around the place, but according to Rousey, she was trying to flatten her body but couldn't. The whole match had been rushed and she felt unprepared. Once again, I get it. Really, WWE should have used this and gone right into a Rousey-Lynch feud as soon as she was ready, but Vince McMahon, for some reason, put the brakes on that one. That's the real problem here. Mistakes happen in wrestling all of the time, but you gotta capitalize on it. Look at Gunther versus Randy Orton from the King of the Ring 2024. That was very well perfect. There is nothing we can do about it now, but the really sad part is that it's a footnote we just didn't need. Number 3, Becky Lynch is the man. Sort of. Let us go back to 2022, where Becky Lynch was talking to Stone Cold Steve Austin on his podcast about her 2019 run. From her own mouth, she was never totally cool with the way her The Man character was portrayed. This is because she was told to never show any vulnerability since day one or when she started her training. So obviously when you do a complete 180, you're gonna struggle. It still meant she became a modern day rattlesnake as she even took down Triple H. So really it was just trying to adjust to a new world. She certainly did eventually, but yeah, because Becky Lynch is a human being, she overanalyzed everything. That's what we do. Austin shared his surprise, but once again, this is why Lynch rules. She was always transparent with her feelings, and that made her more relatable. It was very, very important. Number 2, The Undertaker annoyed Vince McMahon, which was a rarity. These two rarely fell out, especially in public. In 2019, though, The Undertaker was retired and amazingly didn't have a proper contract from the WWE. Think of that. As such, he decided to earn as much money as possible, which is his right, when StarCast came a-calling. They would pay the dead man a fortune to come and sign some photos. He was down. Of course, that event was strongly linked with AEW, and man, when McMahon found about this, he hit the roof. This was meant to be his loyal soldier. Now let's make it clear, Taker did nothing wrong, and this was just stupid wrestling politics, even more so as this guy wasn't even booked for WrestleMania 35. Something was definitely happening. It was also the catalyst for the two to sort it out, and the Phenom got offered a mega deal, which likely keeps him linked to WWE forever. Probably for the best. Anything else would have broken the internet. Number 1, Seth Rollins was mad. As were we all. It's not like it wasn't obvious. And it all comes down to the Hell in a Cell 2019, which was awful, mostly because of the main event. Vince McMahon took that stipulation and ran it into the ground with a Seth versus Fiend match, which was just bizarre. It didn't even have a finish. The ref just called it off, even though it was a Hell in a Cell match. It's utterly ridiculous. Rollins was livid afterwards because fans all over the world lost it, with McMahon mostly finding the whole thing funny. That was really silly, as Seth knew what the fallout was going to be. His babyface run was ruined, and he was going to have to rebuild. What were we thinking? He really let fly on Steve Austin's podcast in 2021, where he admitted he was ready to strangle his boss when he got backstage, and apparently the two shared a look that suggested as much. None of this helped anybody. It was still so bad. It really did take years for WWE to move on from this too. It just told the audience all their criticisms were correct, and that the company didn't really care. So if you need one piece of advice from me, a bald idiot, let us never do this again.